Before you complain that your house feels cold, imagine waking up in a world where winter was not just uncomfortable, it was deadly. No thermostat, no insulated walls, no central heating, just frozen ground, violent wind, fire, animal skins, bones, and knowledge passed down for thousands of years. During the Ice Age, temperatures in some regions could fall so low that exposed skin could begin to freeze within minutes. One mistake, a fire going out, wet clothing, or a damaged shelter, could mean the difference between surviving the night and never waking up. But ancient humans did survive, and not by accident. The common image is simple: cave people hiding in darkness, barely making it through winter around a weak fire. But the truth is far more impressive. Ancient humans were builders, planners, and problem solvers. They understood cold in a way most modern humans never have to. They knew where heat escaped, how wind moved, which materials stayed dry, and what had to be repaired before it became dangerous. They did not just endure the Ice Age, they engineered their way through it. The first trick was simple, but brilliant. They used the earth itself. Above the surface, winter could be brutal. Wind moved across open landscapes with almost nothing to stop it. But below the surface, the temperature was more stable. So in some places, ancient humans dug into the ground and created sunken shelters. By lowering part of their living space into the earth, they reduced exposure to wind and created a space that was naturally warmer than the air above. The ground became insulation. Instead of fighting winter from the surface, they used the landscape as protection. But a shelter still needed walls, roofs, and something strong enough to hold shape under snow and wind. In many Ice Age environments, wood was scarce, so humans turned to another material: mammoth bones. At several prehistoric sites, archaeologists have found evidence of shelters built partly from mammoth bones. Heavy bones could form a base. Curved tusks could help create a frame. Smaller bones could fill spaces and strengthen the structure. A house made from bones sounds strange, but in that world, it made perfect sense. Mammoth bones were strong. They could be stacked, braced, and reused. When covered with hides, grasses, or earth, they helped create a structure that could block wind and hold heat. This was not primitive luck. This was architecture. And what made these shelters even smarter was the way they used layers. Animal hides could block wind. Fur could trap warm air. Grass, moss, reeds, bark, or earth could add insulation. Gaps could be sealed. Damaged areas could be patched. It worked surprisingly like a modern winter coat. The materials were ancient. The principle was not. Warm air had to be trapped. Cold wind had to be blocked. Moisture had to be controlled. Because in freezing weather, moisture can be just as dangerous as cold. Every breath releases moisture. Cooking creates steam. Wet clothing dries into the air. Snow brought inside can melt. And when warm, damp air touches a freezing surface, it can turn into ice. If too much moisture builds up inside a shelter, the structure can begin to fail from within. So ancient humans had to solve another problem: ventilation. That sounds strange at first. Why would anyone let cold air into a warm shelter? Because without airflow, the fire could struggle, smoke could build up, and moisture could freeze into the walls and roof. Too much airflow, and the cold would pour in. Too little, and the shelter could become smoky, wet, and unsafe. In an Ice Age winter, a shelter was a life support system, and at the center of that system was fire. Fire was light. Fire was cooking. Fire dried clothing and hides. Fire helped people repair tools, prepare food, and survive through the longest nights of the year. Inside a winter shelter, the hearth was everything. The warmest spaces could be used for children, elders, or anyone who needed protection. Nearby, people could sew clothing, dry materials, shape tools, and watch the fuel. Because fuel was not unlimited, in many Ice Age landscapes, wood was scarce. So ancient humans had to burn whatever could provide usable heat. Wood when they had it, dried dung, bone, fat, and other materials. They had to know what burned quickly, what burned slowly, what created smoke, and what was worth saving for the coldest part of the night. A modern person turns a dial and forgets about it. Ice Age humans had to manage warmth constantly. Food required the same kind of planning. Winter was not the moment to start wondering where dinner would come from. By then, it was already too late. Ancient humans had to prepare long before the deepest cold arrived. Meat could be dried, smoked, frozen, stored underground, or kept in naturally cold spaces. The same cold that could kill them also helped preserve their food. They learned how to use winter against itself. They had to know when animals moved, when storms became likely, when to hunt, when to build, when to store, and when to stop traveling. The people who survived were the ones who prepared early enough. And then there was clothing. Without the right clothing, even the best shelter would not be enough. Ancient humans still had to leave the shelter to hunt, gather fuel, repair coverings, and carry food. Their clothing worked like their shelters, layers with purpose. Fur close to the body trapped warmth. Outer hides blocked wind and moisture. Foot coverings protected against frozen ground. Hands, head, and face needed protection because exposed skin could become dangerous quickly. And this is where one small invention became incredibly important: the needle. A needle might not sound as dramatic as a mammoth hunt or a bone house, but sewing may have been one of the most important survival technologies of the Ice Age. With fitted clothing, humans could close gaps. They could make sleeves, boots, hoods, and layered garments that moved with them. A badly made seam could let in wind. Wet clothing could steal body heat. So sewing was not just craft, it was survival engineering. Every piece of the system mattered: shelter, fire, ventilation, food stores, clothing, and the group itself. Because no one survived the Ice Age alone. Building a shelter, gathering fuel, preparing hides, storing food, repairing damage, and maintaining the fire all required cooperation. And at night, when the work slowed and the world outside went dark, the shelter became more than a survival machine. It became a home. People gathered around the fire. They repaired tools. They made clothing. They taught children. They told stories. They passed down warnings, routes, techniques, and memories. A child sitting beside that fire was not just being kept warm. They were learning how to survive the next winter. That is why the old idea of primitive cave people is so misleading. Ancient humans were not helpless. They were studying their environment and using every part of it. They turned earth into insulation, bones into walls, hides into weatherproofing, fire into a heating system, frozen ground into storage, stories into memory. And many of their rules still make sense today. Stay dry. Block the wind. Layer your clothing. Ventilate your shelter. Store food before you need it. Protect your heat source. The tools have changed. The physics have not. So the next time you walk into a warm room without thinking, remember what warmth used to cost. It cost planning, labor, knowledge, cooperation, and generations of trial and error. Ancient humans did not survive Ice Age winters because the world was easier. They survived because they learned how to outthink the cold.